Hello everyone, David here. If you've been watching my channel, you'll know that I'm the guitarist in the band I Am the Manic Whale. But obviously, because of the lockdown, we haven't been able to rehearse for the last couple of months. However, there is some cool online software called Jamulus that enables you to rehearse online. So we are going to give that a try as a band, and I want to show you exactly how it works and how you can set it up. Okay, let's go. Okay, so here's what you'll need to get everything set up. First of all, you need a computer of some kind, obviously. Windows or Mac is fine. A cup of tea, very important. And then a USB audio interface is recommended, but it is possible to do it if you only have an HX Stomp. You can use that as the interface, more on that later. So the general flow of things is that I play my guitar. That goes through the pedal board as normal. This is working as an amp simulator in this case. If you want to watch my previous videos, I can tell you more about that. Then the output of that goes to the USB interface into one of the channels. I also have a microphone plugged into channel 1 so that I can send both mic and guitar. And then round the back, the USB interface is connected by USB, obviously, listening to it on a headphone output from the back, and then that's going into the computer. And the good thing about having a mic is that I'll be able to talk to my fellow bandmates while we're rehearsing online. So even if you don't sing in the band, it's useful to have a mic of some kind plugged in so that you can communicate. So when you're using Jamulus, you want to make sure you're using a wired connection. Over Wi-Fi, you're going to get very unreliable speeds because the latency to your router will be changing over time, it'll be less predictable, and also it will add latency. And basically the whole thing we're trying to do here is reduce the latency or delay as much as possible. Get a wired Ethernet cable and plug that into the back of your router and from there into your computer. And then you want to go and disable your Wi-Fi just to make sure it's not running. So find the Wi-Fi option and just turn that off. Installing it is pretty easy. You just go to their website, which is llcon.sourceforge.net, or you can just Google search Jamulus and it comes right up. So download that and install it, and then run it. Okay, when you run it, it looks something like this. And then if you go to settings, you can actually set up what you're going to be sending to your bandmates. So you want to set the sound card that you're using here and make sure you've got the ASIO drivers for whatever your interface is installed. In the case of this PreSonus Studio box, I had to go to the PreSonus website and download their universal interface drivers. But that was working straight away once I got that installed. And then you pick which channels you're sending to the jam. Now I'm sending my mic, which is channel 1, and channel 2, which will be the guitar. And then I'm listening to the main left and right, which will be the output of the mixed jam coming from the jam server. And you can also change the buffer delay, and you want to reduce the latency as much as possible. So feel free to try the lowest option. I've found that I get a lot of sort of clicks and pops when I'm using that, and I have to set it to the middle one to avoid that. But I'm still experimenting and seeing if I can use the shorter times. And then once that's working, you want to go and connect to a server. Now there are loads and loads of servers online, but these are all public. So you're just going to be joining with random other people, and other random people may join your jam. If you're in a band like us, that's obviously not ideal. And depending on the server location, it may also add latency into the equation. So if you have a good internet connection, I would host a private server yourself, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So in Windows, it's quite easy. You just look for Jamulus server and then run that. And then this opens. And then this is already essentially ready for people to connect to it and start jamming. And you can connect to it yourself as a quick test if you want. So the way to do that is in the client, go to View, Connection Setup. And then if you're running the server on the same computer as the client, then you want the loopback address, which basically means this computer, and that is 127.0.0.1. So if you connect to that, you'll see that it comes up, the DADIS, and I've connected to my own server. I can see that. Now, the way most home networks will work is that your computer is served the internet from your router. So you will probably need to go and log into your router and make sure that if your bandmates are connecting to you, to your server that is, they will be able to get to your server. They'll be able to get past the router to this computer, basically. And the way to do that is port forwarding. This is where it gets a little bit more technical, and if you're not going to set up your own server, you can probably skip ahead about a minute. But I'll just show you how to do that quickly as well. You basically need to go and log in to your router. Now, most of them are at 192.168.1.1, but it might be 0.1 or it might be 1.0. There's a few different variations. And then your router has a login and password, which is usually on the back of the router itself. Now, I happen to know that that is admin and then a password, which I'm not going to tell you. Now, a lot of routers are set up very differently, but you want to look for the port forwarding section. It's usually in the advanced settings. So, manage advanced settings, access control. Access control, which sounds more like security to me than port forwarding, but anyway, I found it, the port forwarding section, and you want to add a rule. You basically want to say any incoming communication that's hitting the router on a certain port, you forward that to this computer, and we find out the address of this computer through the command prompt. To find your own IP address of your computer on your local network, you go to Windows R and run cmd, and then in the box that pops up, type ipconfig. And from there, you're looking for the IP version 4 address, which for this computer right now is 192.168.1.194. So might seem like a lot to remember, but just put that to one side. So then in your port forwarding setup, you can add a rule, and then you want to say what it is, which is something like Jamulus forwarding, and then go to service. This would be where it would select a port for you, but the TalkTalk router doesn't know about Jamulus, so just select other. And then this will look quite different to you, but the protocol is UDP, and external host is going to be someone on the internet, so we'll leave that blank. An external port is 22124, which is the default port for Jamulus. Internal host is this computer, so that's where we type in 192.168.1.194, or whatever your computer's IP address on your local network is. And then internal port, well, that can be the same, 22124. Okay, and then we add the rule. It should show up in this list. So as I said, it will look different for all different kinds of routers, but you're looking for something that lets you add this kind of rule. Then the next step is to find out what our IP address on the internet is. And the easiest way to do that is just to use a website which is called What Is My IP? Your public IP address shows up right there on that website, and it will be a string of 4 numbers. Now that you know your own IP address, you give that to your bandmates. When they go and connect to a Jam server, they put that address into this box down there and connect. And then they should show up here, ready to jam.
Hi, it's Michael here in White Noise Music. I'm going to talk you through my online practice rig. Here it comes. So it all starts with the bass guitar and the MIDI pedal board. The bass guitar runs through the pedal chain, which is mounted on top of the pedal board. And then the output of the pedals runs into the input to the mixing desk, which is also my interface. And the MIDI output from the pedal board goes straight into the computer via USB, and that goes through main stage, so you can hear some pedal noise there, and then that actually goes back into the interface on different channels, which then gets picked up by Jamulus over here and then sent off to the server so that I can jam with the rest of the band. That is my setup.
Welcome to the craziness. You join me the first time I'm trying to use Jamulus, which is this very cool piece of kit here. And I'm a little bit nervous about it because I'm stuck in the flat. Michael actually still has half of my equipment from since before lockdown, because he took some of my stuff back to the studio after a gig. So I'm just using my tiny Korg tactile going into main stage.
Rehearsing virtually. Electronic drum kit. Audio interface. Laptop. 2, 3, 4.
You remember that time on the internet that guy said that thing about your face? Everybody loved the thought that it was pretty cool. Said that you were Princess Strange. Somewhere down the line it became your name. Everybody called you it next day in school.
Okay, so now that we're all connected to the same server and jamming, the mission is to get the latency as low as possible. If you open up the settings window in Jamulus, you can see the ping time, which is the physical amount of time it takes for you to get from your computer to the server and back again, and then overall delay, which is that amount of time plus all of the processing that's going on your computer to actually generate the sound. Now, you can reduce the total delay a little bit by reducing the buffer delay. So it's probably set on about 5 milliseconds by default. You can try setting that to 2.67 milliseconds. You might experience some sort of clicks and pops as you do that. So it's sort of a personal choice. And you can also try ticking the enable small network buffers tick box. But if you're going to use that, you need to set fast update on the server as well, which you can do by copying the shortcut and just adding -F at the end on the command line link. Another thing you can experiment with is the jitter buffer. Now, this is normally something that's set automatically by Jamulus to compensate for fluctuations in your internet speed, but it is possible to untick the box and then set the values manually. And if you lower the values, you then do also reduce the latency. However, you then get into a state where you really do start introducing more clicks and pops, and you might experiencing certain musicians completely dropping out. So if you do start fiddling with this section, then do be careful. Another approach you might want to try is having a separate machine play purely a click track. So we had the 4 members of the band join the server, and then the 6th member, after 5th, our sound engineer Matt. The 6th member of the band, Clicky, has joined, and its role is purely to play click tracks. So I actually had a slightly complicated setup here. I've got a remote window into my desktop PC where I'm playing the click tracks, and that's also running Jamulus, and then I'm running Jamulus on my Surface, and I'm actually jamming that way. So yeah, a little bit complicated, and it means I've got another thing to manage, but it means that we have a really tight click track that can never be influenced by other players sort of playing slightly slower. It will always be keeping absolute time, and it means that we're all getting the click track with a bit of delay, so it's kind of equally fair. So I said I would come back to this, but if you are using the HX Stomp and you want to only use that as your interface, it's totally possible. It just means you plug that in as your interface and select it as the input and output in Jamulus. But it does mean that you will hear the direct monitoring from the Stomp. I think there is a way to get around that as well by using some of the extra inputs like 3 and 4, and I'll leave a website that explains fully how to do that in the description. If you want to see purely how to use your HX Stomp as an interface and plug a microphone into it as well, I have a previous video which you might be able to see up here. I'll see if YouTube can link to that. Yeah, so that's my video. I think we are going to use Jamulus to rehearse online. It's certainly not anything like rehearsing for real, because this delay does make things very difficult. But I have to say, it's better than nothing. And as the internet improves and we all get slightly better connections, sort of worldwide, I can see this becoming better and better, and it may become a valid alternative to rehearsing at least as often, because it's really easy for us to just log in and start playing together. And it's actually quite difficult to get the band together all in the same room on the same night of the week. So yeah, we're going to use Jamulus for a bit going forward, at least until the lockdown eases. And you know what? I can see us using it after that, just for a spot of practice here and there, just to make sure we're sharp before a gig. Okay, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, then leave me a like down below, and you can help me out by subscribing to my channel as well. See you next time.
Roll up, take